Welcome back to the Called, Chosen, Credentialed, and Conversations podcast. Here we talk about leadership, life, faith, purpose, and the real moments that happen between your title and your calling. Today we're talking about something many leaders experience, but don't often discuss openly. What happens when leadership feels lonely? Leadership can be meaningful and rewarding. It can open doors, influence lives, and create change. But it can also feel heavy. Sometimes you're responsible for decisions others may not understand. People expect you to be strong, even when you're tired. You might find yourself giving to others while quietly wondering, who's pouring back into me? Let's be honest, leadership can get lonely. Not because people don't care, but because not everyone can carry the same weight you do. Not everyone sees what you see or understands the responsibility, pressure, and sacrifice that come with your role. Today, I want to encourage the leader who keeps showing up, making decisions, encouraging others, solving problems, and still trying to stay whole. Leadership can feel lonely, but you don't have to do it alone. Let's explore why you might choose to build a support network before you need one. A common mistake leaders make is waiting until they feel overwhelmed before looking for support. Having a support network isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. Even Moses needed people around him. Think about it. In Exodus 18, Moses was trying to judge every matter for the people by himself. From morning until evening, he carried the load alone. His father-in-law Jethro saw what was happening and told him, in essence, this thing is too heavy for you. You cannot do it all alone. That's a powerful lesson for anyone in leadership. Sometimes exhaustion doesn't mean you're not called. It can mean you're carrying more than God ever meant for you to carry alone. A strong support network might include trusted friends, family, peers, colleagues, spiritual leaders, counselors, coaches, or people who simply listen without judging. These are the people who don't just celebrate your success, they check on your soul. Every leader needs safe people in their life. Safe people are those who hear your frustrations without using them against you. They listen to your concerns without sharing them. They remind you who you are when the pressure or criticism gets loud. Leadership can be isolating if you're not intentional. Sometimes the higher you go, the fewer people you feel you can be honest with. And that's why it's important to build your support system carefully. Not everyone needs access to your vulnerability, but someone trustworthy should have it. Ask yourself, who can I call when I am tired? Who can pray with me when I am discouraged? Who can tell me the truth in love? Who can remind me to rest, refocus, and keep going? If you can't name those people, now might be the time to start building that circle. Here's something else that brings me to my second point. Seek mentors who can help you see beyond the moment. Support networks help you carry the weight, while mentors help you grow through it. A mentor is someone with wisdom, experience, perspective, and a willingness to help you grow. Mentors don't have to be perfect, but they should be grounded. They challenge you, encourage you, correct you, and help you think beyond your current situation. Proverbs Chapter 11, verse 14 says, "Where there is no counsel, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety." Leaders need wise counsel. There will be times when your emotions are strong, the pressure is high, and decisions are complicated. In these moments or in those moments, a mentor can help you slow down and ask better questions. Not just, what do I want to do? But also, what is wise? What is ethical? What aligns with my values? What decisions will I be able to stand by later? What is the best for the people I serve? Mentors help leaders avoid making lasting decisions based on temporary pressure. It's important to remember that not every mentor serves the same purpose. You might have a professional mentor, a spiritual mentor, a leadership mentor, a business mentor, or personal mentor. Some people can speak to your career. Others can speak to your character. Others can speak to your calling. A good mentor doesn't just help you climb, they help you stay grounded as you grow. Success without grounding can be dangerous. Influence without accountability can be unhealthy. Leadership without wisdom can be exhausting. If leadership feels lonely right now, don't just ask, who supports me? Also ask, who is mentoring me? Who is sharpening me? Who has permission to speak into my life? Which brings me to point 3. Stay connected to God through prayer. For leaders of faith, prayer isn't a last resort. It's a leadership strategy. Prayer is where we let go of what we were never meant to control. It's where we trade anxiety for peace, confusion for clarity, and pressure for God's presence. Jesus modeled this. Even though crowds followed him, needs surrounded him, and his assignment was great, Jesus often withdrew to pray. Luke chapter 5, verse 16 says, "So he himself often withdrew into the wilderness and prayed." The word often is important here. Jesus didn't wait until he was empty to pray. Prayer was a part of his regular rhythm. If Jesus made time to withdraw and pray, then leaders can't afford to neglect prayer and still expect to lead from a healthy place. Prayer doesn't always take away the responsibility, but it gives strength to the leader carrying it. Sometimes prayer sounds like, "Lord, give me wisdom." Sometimes it sounds like, "Lord, help me not to respond out of frustration." Sometimes it sounds like, "Lord, I'm tired." Sometimes prayer is silence, tears, journaling, worship, or just sitting still long enough to remember that God is still God. Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7 reminds us not to be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, to make our requests known to God. And the promise is that the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard our hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. That's what leaders need: guarded hearts and guarded minds. Leadership will test both. Your heart can get weary. Your mind can feel crowded. Your spirit can feel burdened. But prayer brings you back to the one who called you before anyone applauded, criticized, promoted, or misunderstood you. When leadership feels lonely, prayer reminds you, I may feel lonely, but I am not abandoned. So this brings me to point 4. Rest isn't a reward. Rest is a requirement. Many leaders trust, or should I say, they treat rest like something they have to earn. But rest is not a reward for finishing everything. Rest is a requirement for remaining effective. The truth is, the work will always be there. There will always be another meeting, email, decision, need, project, or a problem to solve. But you can't lead well if you're always running on empty. Even God set a rhythm of rest in creation. Genesis tells us that on the seventh day, God rested, not because he was tired, but to set order, rhythm, and an example. Rest is spiritual. Rest is practical. Rest is necessary. Rest doesn't always mean taking a long vacation. Sometimes it's closing the laptop, taking a walk, sitting in a quiet, saying no, going to sleep, laughing with people who know you beyond your role, turning off your phone, letting your body recover, or giving your mind permission to breathe. Rest also means noticing when your identity is too tired to being productive. You're not valuable because you're useful. You're not worthy only when you're needed. You're not successful only when you're busy. You're still called, even when you're resting. You're still anointed when you're quiet. You're still valuable when you're not producing. Sometimes the most spiritual thing a leader can do is rest before resentment sets in. When leaders don't rest, they can become short-tempered, emotionally drained, spiritually dry, and physically worn out. Then the people they're called to serve can start to feel like burdens instead of blessings. Rest protects your ability to love well, lead well, and live well. Think about the leader who always is the first to arrive and the last to leave. Everyone depends on them. They answer every call, solve every issue, attend every meeting, and can carry every concern. On the outside, they look committed, but on the inside, they might be exhausted. They may be smiling in public, but breaking down in private. They might be encouraging others while quietly needing encouragement themselves. That is why this conversation matters. Leadership loneliness is real, but suffering in silence shouldn't become normal. Healthy leaders learn to say, I need support. Wise leaders say, I need counsel. Faith-filled leaders say, I need prayer. Sustainable leaders say, I need rest. Here are a few things to keep in mind today. First, loneliness in leadership doesn't mean you're failing. It might mean you're carrying something meaningful, but it also means you need healthy connection. Second, support isn't weakness. The strongest leaders aren't the ones who do everything alone. They're the ones wise enough to build the right circle. Third, mentorship matters. You need people who help you process, grow, and lead with wisdom. Fourth, prayer keeps leadership surrendered. It reminds you that the assignment belongs to God before it ever belonged to you. And fifth, rest keeps you whole. You can't pour from an empty place forever. In closing, today I want to speak to the leader who feels lonely, the leader carrying decisions no one else sees, the leader who's tired of always being strong, the leader who's grateful for the assignment, but honest about the weight. You're not alone. God sees you. God knows the pressure. God understands the private prayers, the quiet tears, the long days, and the moments when you wonder if you have enough strength to keep going. But remember, the same God who called you is able to sustain you. You don't have to lead disconnected. You don't have to lead depleted. You don't have to lead without counsel, prayer, or rest. This week, take one step. Call someone you trust. Reach out to a mentor. Spend intentional time in prayer. Schedule real rest and honor it. Don't wait until you're empty to care for your soul. Leadership may get lonely, but loneliness doesn't have the final word. You can lead with wisdom, with support, with faith, and from a place of wholeness. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Called, Chosen, Credentialed, and Conversations podcast. Until next time, remember, your calling matters, but so does your ability to carry it well. Until next time.